Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, guys, you know my habit and my custom here at Threads of Enlightenment is to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things very, 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 very expensive in my eyes. One, time, 24 hours. How do you honor her? How do you respect her? Man is going to tell me a lot about you. The other is the journey. The journey is a creator. It created the individual that is in front of us and that is here. And we want to stop, honor Lezly to that she's coming and spending this stuff, man, this precious stuff with us. And so we want to thank her and offer ourselves to her so that she can give and educate us wisdom, knowledge, and insights so that we can grow and become better human spirits while we're here on this planet. Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. As a custom, I always ask our guests, how do you serve mankind? And I always tell the audience that one of the reasons why I ask that question is so that the audience also would recognize that they are in this not about them. It is about us. Part of it is you and part is about us. How do you serve mankind?
The most natural thing that I want to say is by living as the embodiment of love. How I guess, serve people from that space is being in devotion to guiding people back to this evolution, being in devotion to service itself. There's many ways I serve that medicine. There's many ways I guide people back there. I have a list of accomplishments that make me seem qualified to steward people back to this place.
Yeah.
Truthfully, though, the depth of it is that I have this belief that, I know that we just want to be loved at our core. And if we can hold people with this vein of unconditional love until they remember it within themselves, then there's space for them to love the parts of themselves that they deem unlovable. When we love the parts of ourselves that we deem unlovable, we start to remember the magic of who we are.
Yeah, I think loving the self is one of the most important, it is the most important journey that you have to face because you're learning about you, you're facing you. All of the beliefs, the dark beliefs that you had based on the programming of mom and dad and friends and neighbors and religion, how everybody's been programming you. And you had acquired some beliefs. You had written a story with your thoughts. And that story is usually not the truth. And so that's who you have to face, all of those stories. So you still didn't tell them your name. You know?
Oh, yeah. So I'm Lezly Kaye. My socials, my Instagram, my website would say I'm a somatic wealth coach. I too love the way you frame this because I don't like to label myself. I think we live in a world which tries to put us in boxes so much, but for the sake of everyone that likes to know, I guess, the tangible things that I do, I'm a somatic coach, I'm a breathwork coach, I'm a psychedelic integrated therapist, I'm master in NLP, master in hypnotherapy, sex, love, and relationship coach in the making. And yeah, I just have this passion of guiding people back to the truth and the love of their own heart, and more deeply sharing that with the people that they love, and really about allowing women to soften back into this love and receivership of life.
You guys are the most precious things on the planet.
Truly. Truly.
And one of the customs that we have here, Lezly, is we go back into that time machine, as we call the memory, and we revisit certain spaces that we visit as people before we embark as we are embarking on our journey, the process of becoming. One of the spaces that we stop, the first one is the family. We have mom and dad who, based on their trauma, they are now seeing the world and they're skewed from whatever that is. And they are going to deposit data into this young woman's life and into her being. Mom is a stranger, dad is a stranger, brothers and sisters are strangers, a house full of strangers. And you guys now have to manage each other? What was your family unit like?
I have an awareness that my perception is just story. I say that the truth is found in between my recollection, their recollection, and what truly happened. But if I was to give you some compilation of story, chaotic, dangerous. My mum's a drug addict, my dad's an alcoholic, has fought his own demons with drugs as well. All of my uncles abuse a substance or another, and my mum also battled mental health. I believe that she self-medicated mental health with drugs, and that was what led to her drug addiction. So, yeah, my childhood was very unsafe. It was very, I'm going to say, like full of terror. In any moments that I've done healing that has taken me into a regression back to my childhood, I'm faced with a lot of terror. Yeah.
As a young individual, a young being in that mixture of trauma from all sides, I know that she is being traumatized left and right. How did she, Lezly, how did she begin to interpret all the trauma surrounding her, and how did she localize it in herself as to how did she manage it? How did she took it? What was going on with this human being in the midst of?
In the imprints that formed because of it. Yeah, so I was sexually assaulted quite young from what I remember. Again, I've done enough work to know that it's the story we attach to it. I'm never really going to know the truth, but I have this somatic imprint of sexual assault really young. And it formed this belief in me that men, the masculine, couldn't be trusted for two reasons. One, because it was a man that assaulted me, and two, because my father wasn't there to protect me. And so I formed this belief that I was going to be abandoned. Also, my grandparents took me off my mum when I was 4 years old because she would do things like leave me in a car, me and my older brother actually, in a car for 2 days because she'd forget that she had children. So there was there was an imprint of abandonment like really early. And even in the moments that my mum had me, she was always high or often high from what I understand. So wasn't really emotionally available. And then the other imprint was that men couldn't be trusted, and that formed a really strong fear that ruled my life for a very long time until I became aware of it. And it was actually the breakdown of my business and the breakdown of my marriage formed from these imprints that I was left with as a child.
Those are those encounters. They make us, actually, they give birth to us in many ways of being there, and we would live in what I call the survival mode for much of our life until, some people come to a realization about that pain, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and all the different things, but they will come because of that. And here's this young girl. She has some strong belief based on the traumatizing of her life and her mind and spirit and body and all of it. As she's moving through, heading towards high school, she's getting older. And how did she relate to those outside of the family chaotic situation, her friends? What was her mindset and her relationship like with others?
So two things formed in my subconscious. One was that I didn't belong, and so our minds are that powerful that we recreate our beliefs. And essentially, I got bullied all through high school. I didn't really have any close friends. I was never really accepted because I had this deep sense of not belonging. The second thing that began to form was because I was searching for my dad's attention, and this is where daddy wounds can work in our favor sometimes. I don't condone it, but sometimes, because it propelled me into being a high achiever. Because there was this part of me that was always seeking approval and was always seeking dad's attention. And so I channeled that into my intelligence. So, I got like ducks of the school in year 7. I got top 5% of, I can't remember, it's like I can't remember what it's called even in Australia now, like the subjects that you're meant to take to go to university. I got like top 5% for the entire nation. I studied extra studies when I was in year 11 and I got a journalism certification. But yeah, there was this, I can witness the two distinct patterns that ran, that I never belonged and that I had to achieve to receive any form of recognition.
Yeah. So many people, because of the pain, we hide in certain things, work, our education to become that super achiever. It's amazing where we find solace, if you will. And but we will find it. Some others find it in relationships. Others find it different way, as you had mentioned. So here's this girl. She is a high achiever, wanting to grab dad's attention, the individual, and that she has this pain towards and mistrust. She's now heading into college, that other space by which we are destined to go if we choose. And they have their own things that await us there. How, what was your mindset heading in that direction if you went, Lezly,
I,
and why did you pick that particular field that you went into?
I didn't go to college. As smart as I was, I craved approval more. And by that stage, I was bullied and like wasn't the popular pretty girl at school. And by the time um, I was 17, had my first boyfriend, and he invited me to move. I grew up in a little country town, and he invited me to move to like the big city. So I actually dropped out of high school in year 11 and followed this. I don't like to call men boys, but he was a boy. We were young. Followed this boy to the city and I guess had my first experience of a toxic relationship. And again, I was just trying to prove that men couldn't be trusted and that I was not
Yeah.
going to be chosen. From there, though, I got a job. I had my first job when I was 17 as a real estate, I think it was administrator to begin with, and then I moved into personal assistant in real estate. And even though I dropped out, I've always been big on education because that's where I got my worth from. So in my first job, I actually studied a like business administration certificate as like
Yeah.
an apprenticeship style
Mhm.
arrangement.
Yeah, it's that piece as far as college and what road we take. I love asking that question because it kind of gives us a picture of the mindset of the individual. I've interviewed so many people and I hear all kinds of stuff when they are heading that run. So someone said, I was just getting the hell out, I was just running, and all of those different things as to why we picked it where we went. So here you are. One of the things that I keep telling people why, until you heal,
Mm.
you will attract the people that that will trigger you because something needs to be addressed, and that's why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you need to address, and so
Mm-hmm.
because you had called that in, and that energy is attracted, it's comfort to you, and so you bring it in, and you have to learn. Okay, I see it here. What lesson did I miss, or what lesson I need to grab from here, so that I can obtain that healing that we are all in need of. So here you are. You got your job. You're in real estate. What was happening to Lezly, that girl, in the midst of all of that? What was she? Where was she? What was she doing? What was she thinking about?
Honestly, and there was a sense of just running. I think I was so keen to move with this man because it was away from my family. It was away from the chaos that I knew. I mean, I actually moved out of home when I was 14 years old. My older brother had moved out. I think I was like 14 and a half and he'd just almost turned 16. And because he moved out, I was like, stuff this, I'm out. And I went and stayed with some friends. And then so when this boy invited me to move to the big city, I was like, cool, that's what I'm doing. I did want to get as far away from my family as possible. Do you know, what was I doing? Honestly, I was just trying to be better and kind of failing forward, I would say. I wasn't, I guess, a saint by any means. I sort of fell into partying and taking drugs and but succeeding at the same time. It was
Yeah.
like this like dual existence of like wanting to be the rebel and like making the most of life, but also this desire to like be the one that made it in my family, like to be the one that made something of their life.
Yeah. The one that proves something to the others, that I am worthy. You may not think I am, but I'm going to prove to you that I am. And we
Truly.
have that quiet dialogue within us, and it drives us to become. And as we're becoming, part of us is falling apart, like you said, at the same time. We have this dichotomy in our life that at some point in time, they collide. Boom.
Truly.
So as you're doing all of that, what did that collision, your first, I guess, um, as an independent individual, that first collision, what did it look like, and how did it change you?
I have this saying that the universe taps you on the shoulder and then it punches you in the face.
Oh, those red flags that they throw up all the time, those things.
I ignored all of them. I definitely waited until I was punched in the face. Yeah, uh, it was actually, I think I had glimpses of an awareness. I would say glimpses of an awakening. Interestingly, I've always been quite curious about life, and it kind of comes with the territory of intelligence, I feel, where you just ask questions and you don't accept the current reality. And I feel that's one of my superpowers in that evolution of the child from the broken home. I didn't just accept the status quo. There was this internal hunger to just know more and to be more.
Yeah.
But I didn't really, I mean, I evolved rapidly, but I would say I got lost in periods, like from my 20s until my early 30s. It's kind of all just meshed with like making 700K salaries and achieving everything and
Yeah.
still feeling empty inside. And yeah, just this combination of achieve, 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 and just keep achieving. And then it kind of got to a point, like I've always said that I've been a high achiever, so it's kind of like I reached the pinnacle of success early. So I got to like 34 and I was in my second company at this stage. The first one I'd founded in partnership. And this was kind of when things started to, I wouldn't say crumble. This was still like probably a slap in the face, and I didn't listen. I founded a company in partnership with a man, an
Mm-hmm.
older man, and basically I built this company from nothing to 60 million in turnover. Although I had an executed shareholders agreement, and there's
Yeah.
newspaper articles about this everywhere, he never actually lodged it. And I was so naive that I didn't know that we had to lodge a shareholders agreement and become a business, like a register of a business owner.
Yeah.
And this was where my first wound was playing out. I was craving daddy's love so bad
Yeah.
that I was blinded to the ways in which I was being manipulated, the ways in which I was being used. And I was also trying to prove this story that I couldn't trust men. And this was my first, I guess, awareness of this interaction with a man who I thought was going to mentor me and help me build my future. Like I truly thought that he was going to support me to kind of like not save me in a way. I didn't need him to save me, but like set me up with the freedom that building a business entire empire could afford me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he betrayed me. I still didn't listen fully. Ego in one hand and chip on my shoulder in the other. I actually quit that organization when I realized that he had basically misled me for 18 months, and I started my own business. And that quickly grew to 20 million in turnover in the space of a year. But I also then brought on a male business partner, and that business partner proceeded to befriend my clients and my employees and then steal them out from underneath me. And it was at that point that we were growing so rapidly, and he took our largest client. And now my hands, I'm just going to say as well, I'm never one to sit here and say my hands are ever fully clean in any of these things. There's obviously, if I was in my power and light and strength, that my clients wouldn't have left in the first place. But
Yeah.
to me and my existence, it was another betrayal, and it was another evidence point that I couldn't trust men. And it was at that point, because losing that client actually sent that company into administration because we couldn't sustain the growth and not have the cash flow from this client, that I stopped and listened, because it was the second time that what I'd built had been like ripped out from underneath me. And I sat there and I was like, well, I'm the common denominator here. Like, I'm the one that this keeps happening to. So if
Yeah.
I'm the one that this keeps happening to, I want to know why. Like, why is this happening? And at that time, it was just pure, I almost want to say ego and curiosity, more so I could build another company and do it again. But
Yeah.
um, once I lifted that lid and started asking those questions and started to do breath work and shadow work, there was no turning back. Pandora's box had been opened, and all this awareness flooded in. And I actually barely recognized the woman I was. I was 110 kilos. I was closed. I was rigid. I was cold. I didn't allow myself to receive the love of my ex-husband. So at that time as well, my marriage ended. It was the stripping away of everything I thought I was, and the crumbling of the identity of who the world told me I should be. So
Yeah.
the woman I truly am could like emerge from that place and actually start to live from this place of wholeness.
Wow, you're more stubborn than me.
I don't know if I was stubborn or stupid, but
Oh, God, girl.
yeah.
One after the other. You see, and that's what I tell people. We attract those that are there to teach us things and make us dig because it's comfortable. You know, we're familiar with that energy. And when the truth begins to unmask, it helps us to grow. Once you recognize that it'll help you to grow, then you can use it. I remember a friend of mine, I told, I was talking to a friend of mine about it. Everything I didn't like is in this one person, just one person. And would just irritate everything about me, and I would be all messed up and screaming and yelling inside, And one day I sat and I said, "What is wrong with you? Why is this individual affecting you to that level? I mean, you need to understand why." And as it afforded me a really powerful journey to go in and excavate some of the things and learn to let it go, reset, learn to live present, allow that individual the freedom to express, because that individual wasn't able to express many things before, and that's what it was. And so you just have to learn to be present. So here you are, you finally got that uppercut that landed you on the floor, if you will, and you sat down and began to ask, where it was and whatever. And you began to do shadow work, all of those type of things. Some of the most shadow work guys is when you go in and start excavating all of the dark things back in there and looking at it and seeing what is bringing some light to it. And as you bring some light to it, that's good stuff, because when you bring light to it, it gives you the opportunity to address it, if you will. You don't fix it, you address it. You address it by bringing in certain tools into your life, meditation, all these different aspects. What tools did you bring in along with shadow? What else did you bring into your space to assist you to uncover all of those hidden and locked closets. And then what tools did you use to help you to clean it up, if you will, to have that spring cleaning?
I already mentioned breathwork, and breathwork's a
Yeah,
constant, and I would say breathwork's one of the strongest for spring cleaning. I did some breath before I got on here. I breathe every time I feel emotion, so I rarely store emotion now. I can tend to feel it like as it hits, and then I'll breathe and be with it. Psychedelics was a big one for me, and I'm going to say that with a precursor. Please don't run out there and take psychedelics, because the reason I became a certified psychedelic practitioner is because there's a lot of irresponsible serving
yeah,
of this medicine, and more so because the integration is the most important. And there's a lot of people that decide to be shamans overnight without truly understanding what's happening on a psychological and a neurological level when you're facilitating psilocybin mushrooms, for example.
yeah.
So yeah, if
It's
you're going to, make sure they integrate is my.
yeah, the psychedelic part. Um, I've known both sides, where people, you have to be ready, because when you're opening up yourself, you have to be strong enough to be able to deal with certain things that will arise. Um, and if you're not strong enough, you can be lost within that. I have used psychedelic in my life to get past the what we call the natural mind, all the doubts and the stuff that I call it the elevator, Lezly, that you take the elevator up, but you have to know which, what floor to get off on
Get
and
out on.
stuff like that.
Truly, truly.
Yeah,
For,
because that's very good. It'll help you, but still, even though it'll make you aware of certain things, you still have to do the work
you have,
um,
yes.
to get it done. It just helps you to see things clearer, but the work is still required. And a lot of people, Leslie, will see what's wrong, but never do the work.
No,
That
truly,
yeah,
truly.
and I've
It's
seen
not a
that.
magic pill.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. And personal growth is one of the most, physical, mental, spiritual things you'll ever go through in your life. And so it takes work to get there. Once you begin to incorporate all of these things in your life, and you begin to unearth those thoughts and those belief systems, as you began to relinquish them, Leslie, what began to happen to you as you saw them and you started to learn how to release them and become?
I'm going to add two more things. Tantra
Mhm.
and embodiment work, which sort of go hand in hand, were some other practices that really helped me and to alleviate a lot of my sexual shadow and the shadow of not seeing myself as my mother. Because when I did embodiment work, I really got to witness the crazy that I witnessed in my mum because of the drugs, and where I was rejecting that in myself. So like feminine embodiment work really helped. The journey has been interesting. And it's like, I mean, in this position now, and I'm going to continue to evolve, that's just who I am as a being. But it's like witnessing layers peel away even now,
Yeah.
and like new parts of myself be revealed and old parts of myself be integrated. And we kind of pendulum swing, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. And so when I first started, there was a lot of sexual liberation. There was a lot of like, strip myself bare, like literally, figuratively, half naked picture of myself all over social media, because I felt that the world had suppressed me for so long. I felt that, and given that my trauma revolves around sexual trauma, I felt that there was a liberation piece I needed to claim here by
Yeah.
being so open and free and seen in the world. And then there's been a maturing of that. There's been a maturing of my spirituality as a whole. There's been a maturing of my spiritual ego, where I would say that I didn't judge. If you weren't spiritual, were you really as good as me? And especially coming from corporate, and especially given that I've stepped back into corporate to sort of guide those women back to the truth of their heart.
Yeah.
And there's been a softening. There's been from general spirituality, I guess, to truly finding God, and not in churches. I don't find God in the same places that other people do. But I would say there's been a grace. There has been this like soft strength and a deeper opening and a love and respect for men. Truly, my heart breaks for the ways in which the world and the feminine hasn't, because I feel there's a shift coming, and I like to think that the world is evolving, hasn't allowed space for men to provide, and where that in turn has not allowed women to soften and to receive, and where there's so much distortion with patriarchy and feminism and the armor that we wear and the ways in which we cut ourselves with knives that were given to us by other people. And yeah, there's been a real humbling, I would say. It definitely started as almost like an ego that was constructed from society and who society told me I was allowed to be,
Yeah.
to this evolution into a spiritual ego, which served me because I needed, I guess, like the gusto and that like arrogance to keep going.
Yeah.
And then there's been a maturing and a softening and an opening more, and this desire to not seek healing, this desire to not seek out, high intensity experiences, and to really just be in receivership of life and love itself almost.
Yeah, this journey opens you up to many things that, if you allow it, and we have the gender programming, as you mentioned, that as men, we can't cry, we can't show emotions, we can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do. So um, that manhood, I think a man is not a man until he's able to cry. I don't think if you're disassociate yourself from your emotion, you're not a total 100% healed man. You're damaged goods. The emotion is a part of the human experience, both male and female. And so we as men tend, because of whatever culture we come in from and whatever, and all of this nonsense. No, guys, get in touch with yourself, man. Cry, man. Grab your woman and break down. She'll be okay. She knows how to hold you together. And so, and the women, also have the programming, the gender programming. Guys, as you said, feminism, you have some of it, you have to know your place and all kinds of. It just rubs my spirit wrong when people start having that type of situation and conversation, Lezly, because I think I can't visit certain places because it rubs my spirit wrong when I see certain things, and I don't go because I know me. I'm going to say something and get arrested. So here you are. You are going through all of this, and you're exposing yourself, and not even exposing, you're re-energizing yourself through all of these modalities, these experience high, powerful, emotional energies and so forth. And you're moving through, you're there sitting. How did you now begin to step into looking and saying, wait a minute, I can help others? What was that piece look like, that time, if you will, when you started to see it? And what steps did you take to begin to put it together, if you will?
I studied NLP because I had a business that relied on sales, so I actually did it as a way to be better at sales, basically.
Yeah.
And same as breathwork. I did breathwork because I wanted to stress less so I could work more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So breathwork was the first thing that cracked me open. My first breathwork experience, I had a full out of body experience, and I was like, okay, there's more going on here than I've allowed myself to believe. And then when I studied NLP, it started to take me into some of these beliefs that I've formed, and I started to see really clearly the choices that I'd made to get me to this place. And then as I started to integrate these experiences, and the more I started to heal and soften and like walk myself back to this place of being able to feel again. And to
Yeah.
give you an example of how like locked down I was, my ex-husband, and we were together 10 years, did not see me cry for 10 years.
Wow.
I was on lock. I was so afraid to feel because there was this wellspring of unprocessed emotions that was like encased behind this solid wall that I had in the world. Yeah, so it was through the capacity to feel again and knowing what it was like on the other side of being rigid and closed and unemotional to then the bliss and the joy and the happiness that I then had access to, that this part of me was like what's the point in this if we can't share it? And
Yeah.
I just, even now, like I posted on my Instagram before, I witness so many people living a half life because they've been told that there's nothing else, there's no
Yeah.
more, that they have to choose between like a good marriage and a successful business, or a kid and freedom, or whatever they've been told is acceptable. And most of us, for most of our life, just go along with blinkers on. We're like, cool, this is what's allowed, and we follow the rules, and we're good little boys and girls, and we do as we're told. And we accept a half life, we accept half love, we accept a half existence.
Yeah.
And yeah, this like fire of like, I was there, and I'm telling you that we don't have to choose that anymore, that we get to choose to like live fully and to love fully and to, you know, people are often afraid of pain, and pleasure and pain are the same coin, just different sides. And we
Yeah.
forget that if we try to avoid our pain, we're also avoiding our pleasure. And pleasure's just is happiness and joy and bliss and everything good in our lives. And yeah, I know what it's like to live starved. We're starved as humanity. We're starved of emotion. We're starved of each other. We're starved of connection, and mainly starved of the love and connection with ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't have
That's,
to.
yeah.
We do, we don't.
That's the first assignment, is to love yourself. And as you begin to do that, I think one of the things that COVID did, which is, I think the collective called it because we needed it. It gave birth to much. It made people look in. We saw the evil that was in, that was hiding because of the busyness. We saw a lot of abuse. We saw those people that were hiding, and everything was stripped bare. People had to look to themselves and deal with themselves and all of those different things. And Western society, people don't like dealing with themselves. They don't know how to disconnect from the phone for 5 minutes, turn off the TV, the radio, whatever it is, and spend time with the self. I tell people the dark places or the dark times are in our life to make us aware that there's a creator inside of you, and you didn't, um, out of ignorance or maybe out of busyness, because you are having conversation with yourself, but you're just shutting it down, drugs, whatever it is. But you haven't given him permission to do something yet. And that's why when you give him permission to do something, you start moving, you start creating that new vision that you want. One of the things that Lezly mentioned, breath work. Don't take that stuff lightly, guys. The breath, because I do it with my meditation, the breathing and the breath is the bridge between the natural and the supernatural. And when you recognize that and understand that, you will do mighty things. I traveled a lot, Lezly. I came out of a lot of body experiences because I know the purpose of the breath and I understood it, and I allow myself to travel. Um, and I've had some excellent experiences as a result of it. It changed my life. But I wanted to make people aware this is a serious tool. Yeah.
So, the science of it, because I nerd out on this stuff, our prefrontal cortex, which is our ego, is actually what is bypassed when we're breathing and also when we're on psychedelics. So we can actually release DMT in our pineal gland when we're breathing if we get deep enough in our breath. And that's actually what takes us to these altered states. And we can access the same level of psychedelic experience through our breath as we can in a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
So I've taken psychedelics clearly, and I've been in Kundalini energy activations where for 20 minutes I've been breathing and in an eye gazing process, which has allowed me to enter the same state of consciousness as I would as if I was on mushrooms. So we're very, very powerful, and we have the capacity to take ourselves to these places. Sometimes we just need a little assistance because we have filtered ourselves or blocked ourselves from accessing the capacity to be with that much energy inside of ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's why some of us, I've achieved some of the most intense trips that I've ever had was without any drug.
Truly, truly.
You know, even though I did the drugs, there was this little part of me that was holding on to not get out of control, if you will, to not. But when I did it naturally, I was totally surrendered to the process, and I was able to achieve some. I remember one deep meditation. I was traveling so far beyond what I was comfortable with, and I had to pull myself back. It was like, wait a minute, it was going too fast and too far. I kept saying, it's too fast, too far, and I need more time. And I had eventually got to the space where I needed to be. But here you are, you've done so much. You've learned who you are. You went through so much. It took a long time too. And you came out, you have rebuilt your life. You're now serving others through this. I want you to invite us into one of those precious transitions as you were spending time with someone that came and their world is all in darkness. And through spending time with you and you learning of them and locating them, and when you began to escort them, if you will, into the new belief, the new perspective, I know what it does to you. What did it do to them?
I feel the most powerful was a woman I worked with that was a clinical or is a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
And she'd been in therapy because they have to for years. And she'd gotten to the point that her trauma was that crippling that she actually had to stop working. And yeah, she got to this point where she was like, I just need to try something else because I've been in the system. I am the system for so long. And after 6 weeks of working together, she actually started back at work because she was able to live in society again. And she messaged me one morning, and the message was something along the lines of, I've woken up for the first time in what feels like forever, but let's say the past decade, and I've actually truly felt joy for the first time, I think, that I can remember in this lifetime. Like true, unadulterated self-love and joy, and like just this knowing that life's going to be okay and that I'm going to be okay. Yeah, that was powerful because the system had failed her for so long. And what I attest it to is often in some therapies or a lot of therapies, it's like we're told part of us is wrong or doesn't belong or like needs to be shut down or pushed aside. And what I attest it to is if we had like a sore in our arm, like if we had a wound, we don't cut off our arm.
Yeah.
We put a band-aid on it or a bandage on it, and we put cream on it, and we nurture it, and we take care of it, and we restore it back into wholeness. Yeah, this journey to just reminding people that they're not broken, and this deep, deep capacity to hold unconditional love for all of their experiences until they can find unconditional love inside of themselves, and just witnessing people actually love the darkness. Like, I love my ugliness, and this is what I
Yeah.
say to people. Like, true freedom comes when you can look at the ugliest part of you, the part you've deemed the most rejected by society, and you can wholeheartedly love that part of you with so much compassion and understanding, and no desire to shame or blame who you were to get you to who you are becoming. Yeah. Just the sense of wholeness that people start to come back into.
Yeah, and it was a precious journey for them, and to be a part of it and to hear their testimony, if you will, their switching of their belief, everything about them um, becomes new. All of you that have been listening to this conversation, um, I have someone that has been through some stuff. I had to say she was more stubborn than me because she didn't pay attention to some of those red flags like we all do, you know. And I love the terminology red flags because it's just like the bling, trying to get our attention. And she's gone past all of that pain. She's learned how to love herself. She has learned how to utilize tools that will change your life as it changed her. She talked about that individual and what happened to her. The reason why I asked her that question is so that you guys can hear how she approaches different things. And we're going to provide everything for you guys to reach her because you need to. Um, all of you that are hurting, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. Pain is pain. Once you have made it through pain, you know how to reach and help one through pain. And so, men, women, everyone, I don't care. You're in pain. I have someone that have some knowledge, some insights as to how to guide you through. We're going to provide all of her contact information so that you can get into her space and change your life, man. Lezly, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
It's an honor, absolutely an honor.
Thank you.
So